April 8th, 9th, 11th. Wow, already April 11th. We got a lot to talk about today. Brendan Martin, our executive producer down in Ocala, is working on things. Storms all over the Southland. Down here in Dixie, man, it is just hammering, the rain and the thunderstorms. So we're going to get through this. This is like a pilot flying through storms. But Coach Matt Dean joins us from over in Memphis at Rhodes College. Bo Carter, one of the great orators out in Dallas-Fort Worth with the National Football Foundation and Baseball Writers of America. Also one hell of an author, so we'll talk to him about lots of sports in the SEC and around the country. John Hartwell, AD at ULM, joins us. We'll get some technical questions. We got a lot of stuff to talk to him. Vince Ferrara, later in the show, joins us from the Sports Animal in Knoxville. So look, smash that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications. Hit that button on your Android or iPhone and tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, everybody, because we are about to come at you with a lot of great information. We spent 2 days in Little Rock. That is an awesome city. Thank you, Jim and Pat McClellan and Mike Miller and all the great folks we met over there. Unbelievable people. We'll be right back.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man. Gentlemen, what a week it has been. We've been in Clarksville, Tennessee, Little Rock the last couple of days. Met a lot of great Razorback Sigma News over there. Went to lunch with them yesterday. Pretty cool restaurant called Bossa Nova. It's Brazilian. Unbelievable. I recommend you get the Hearts of Palm chicken soup. It was off the charts good. Little Rock is a really clean city. And I think about how Memphis, Matt, we got to do something. We need to give everybody in Memphis a giant construction, industrial-sized trash bag and say, fill it up, and, you'll get a steamer pack of crystals or something. We got to do something, but a lot of fun over there. One thing I'm finding out, guys, golly, the interest in the questions from the fans out there. Where are we going in college athletics? It is unsustainable, these NIL deals. I'll start with you, Coach, and then go to Bo. If you're a coach right now, your roster, you look at Bruce Pearl at Auburn. I mean, every day somebody hits the porthole. KD Johnson. And I don't know if they just said, well, look, you're not going to get the playing time here. He's going to go somewhere else. And then Trey Donaldson, he's out. Now Aiden Holloway, he came in as a 5-star. He wasn't even close to being a 5-star, what I saw out of him. I'll go back to what our man, Coach John Brady, said. All these people say, oh, this guy's a lottery pick. No one claimed Aiden Holloway was a lottery pick. But he goes, let me tell you something. I've coached a few lottery picks in my day. Lottery picks don't throw up 6 points and 2 rebounds. They're pretty much 20 and 12 or better, night in and night out. That's why they're a lottery pick. Coach Matt Dean, let's talk about that and where we're going. We're on a train to nowhere, are we?
Well, good morning, guys. Bo, always a pleasure. Rob, we got you settled down from some technical difficulties. I hope you sound like you're in a better spot, right?
Brendan is the captain of the ship. It's these storms, and it's not his fault. It's the internet or the interweb. Yeah, we got this.
So the first thing I want to talk about, it's interesting, with the whole John Calipari to Arkansas. Because I think it really is a win-win for both schools. And hear me out here for a second. So, I have some people I know that are season ticket holders for Big Blue Nation, have been lifelong fans that know people inside the athletic department. And the reason I say this is a win-win, when it appeared like Calipari was going to stay for another year, people don't realize Kentucky had the money to buy him out. but they chose not to. But I think it was strategic because what happened is if the story is correct that I'm hearing, his representation went back and asked for a counter, and basically they're like, no. So then he takes the Arkansas deal, and now I'm hearing that Big Blue Nation boosters are ready to up their NIL contributions to get a different coach in there. So I think sometimes we are masked a little bit of really what's going inside these programs. I mean, I'm hearing ridiculous numbers even out of local kids that play for the University of Memphis, the money we're giving kids. So it's not going away, guys, but what's going to happen, I think, in football is we're going to have 60 programs pretty soon and maybe 4 or 5 quadrants, and we're going to be like an NFL playoff bowl. I think it's coming. We'll have a commissioner, and I just think college football will change forever. That's just my opinion.
Bo Carter,
bad for us fanatics because we're going to still have all this competition. You're still going to have your SECs, your Big Tens, obviously no Pac-12, but it's going to be – there's too much money in this TV situation. It's going away. It's not going away.
No, it's not. And the problem is that when you look at when you look at what is going on around the country and you talk to fans, they are. And I had lunch yesterday with about 16 Arkansas alums, all Sigma News, great men, and they were fantastic. I mean, one of the guys there was 92 years old, a doctor. I think Little Rock in the state of Arkansas is in a green zone. These people look, you're forever young, but every one of them remembered fondly. I mean, these guys, most of them still working. They're very sharp. They hate what's going on in college athletics.
Yeah.
And I can assure you, they're the ones that you're going to be going to, Bo Carter, when you're asking for money. Now, you're going to get some low-hanging fruit right now with NIL, but these guys, they work for what they've got. I don't think any of them were born on third base and think they hit a triple.
No, and boy, I totally agree with Matt. We're even hoping maybe the old Southwest Conference will reform as the Southwest Division of the Super Conference. I may have a job over there again, Rob, after 28 years. But no, I mean, I think it's coming. The NCAA keeps denying it, and I saw a quote from an SEC coach and AD that it's 2 or 3 years off or whatever. But it's with TV and everything running. Matt, I think one thing it's going to do, and Rob, you might agree with me too. The teams outside the 60 or 64, whatever they do, are going to demand like $1 million guarantee or $1.5 million guarantee to play these teams, because they need to get a slice of the pie too. So it's remember the golden rule: he who has the gold rules, I guess. So it's in the transfer portal and the NIL are totally out of control. But then it's like my good friend Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, the old Foghorn Leghorn, said, boys, all you need now is for Congress to get involved. So,
that's right.
Something's got to give somewhere.
Yeah, and smart people that have made a lot of money also can tell you, and you're really hard pressed to find anybody. You're really hard pressed to find anybody that is able to tell you that they have not struggled to get where they are. And now you're giving these 18 and 19-year-old student athletes all this money. And I was reading on message boards last night of some different schools, and you can just fill in the blank of whatever school it is, and they're going, it's not about us anymore. The athletic directors and the coaches don't give a damn about us. It's all about coddling and pacifying these spoiled brats that they call student athletes. And honestly, the criticism is warranted, but it's on both sides. The NCAA, Matt, and John Hartwell just notified me he's had a major, just an issue come up that he's got to take care of. That's what happens when you're an AD. You got a lot going on, and love having him on here. He's always welcome anytime, as all y'all are. But this is Philip Marshall, Auburn Undercover, wrote a great story a couple of days ago. He said, don't blame the student athletes. It's a lack of leadership, Matt. I mean, look, nobody's saying, because if I had an 18-year-old son or daughter that had an opportunity to make that kind of money, I would be like, yeah, go for it. But I would also say you got to remember that there's things in life bigger than you. And this me generation, me too, and all that garbage. Okay? What about us? What about the team? Because you're going to be working for a company one day. And this is trickling into the workplace, Matt Dean. You're at Rhodes. A lot of really smart student athletes. Really smart. And they're going to be going to law school, medical school, a number of things. If they don't learn how to work in college, they should have learned that from their mom and dad coming up. When are they going to learn?
Well, ultimately, we know after the fact now that this was kind of Saban's last straw, right? He just finished another season. They got to the football playoffs, led Michigan 4 minutes ago, lost in overtime, whatever. And the first week outside of that, he comes back to the office trying to get these guys better. They're talking about, we need more money. And he's like, I'm done with this, right?
Yeah.
So I think we know now this is probably for coaches, and I agree, don't blame the student athletes, but for coaches, the ones that are going to excel at this are the ones that are able to manage all the dynamics. We talk about the portal. It's not just a portal, but how do I manage a locker room where my quarterback's getting $1.5 million guys and NIL deals, and I don't got, I got 100 kids on the roster, and I know 70 through 100 aren't getting much. I mean, Now you could also say to a degree that's an NFL locker room for 53 guys because we're not paying the special teams and backup linebacker as much as we are the starting quarterback. I get that. So I think my perspective, Bo, is my son works for a young upcoming head coach, Dan Lanning, who understands that this is almost like navigating as an NFL these days. You honestly have to figure out how much money you got, where you're going to spend your money, and how are you going to manage the kid that had a really good year and wants more money the next year. And I don't know the specifics of what's going on, guys, and my son works in it. He don't tell me a damn thing, and he shouldn't. But I will tell you this, you guys, I know some stuff that I can't disclose here. You guys would be shocked at what even some programs starting quarterbacks in the AAC are making. I am just telling you, you would be shocked. So here's the thing, everyone's got a couple of really big boosters and they want to keep their quarterback, right? But I think it's tricky if that locker room knows that Bo's my starting quarterback and he's getting $1 million and no one else in the team's getting more than $200K. I mean, that's what we're dealing. That's the reality. That's almost like you have to have a psychotherapist to be your head coach now because these kids are going to leave me after a year because they're not happy with the payouts to maybe 2 or 3 kids because they know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, college athletics today is a lot like the old game we played, musical chairs. You're going to just keep transferring around from one school to the other. Eventually, you're not going to have a chair to sit your ass on. I'll tell you something. One of the gentlemen I had lunch with yesterday, very smart man, said the NIL is the match and the portal is the gasoline. And together, it's just an explosion of it's just and Bo Carter and Matt, we are here today. We're a product of loving our schools, our teams. I mean, it's emotional. You get attached to it. And here we are now looking at these, they call them student athletes, but I don't know what we call. You're gonna see the fans lose that love for their teams. They're gonna love their school, but a lot of schools shut down during the draconian pandemic lockdowns. Some schools like Auburn never stopped in-person learning. But if you stopped in-person learning for a couple of years or longer, man, that's going to have a negative effect unless you do something about it. And Bo, this is what gets me. The discussion we had yesterday was why isn't anybody doing anything about all this? I'm like, we are. I mean, you've got to stand up and say, like Dawn Staley the other day. Well, if you feel like you're a woman, you ought to be a woman. Are you kidding me? It's just asinine. Look, men play in men's sports, women play in women's sports. When Riley Gaines is, we got to get Riley Gaines back on. But she's just one person. But this is nuts that football, when Derek Mason tried that little stunt at Vanderbilt with the female kicker, what if she'd have done a fake field goal and gone around right end and run into someone like Takeo Spikes or Marcus Spears out there on the edge or Javon Curse? Congress would convene with hearings about football is too violent. We can't have this game. We've got to quit letting a small fractional percentage of the population run things. Or I don't walk around on eggshells, Bo. Write a story. Give us the lead.
It's right. And Rob, great points. And Matt hit it on the head. The most important person in this management of this is the director of player personnel. I mean, everybody, if you look, this has been, a major hire for especially college football and college basketball, even going down to the spring sports. You've got to find a guy to sort of coddle, for lack of a better word, keep people happy, and then find just like Kansas State 2 years ago, Rob and Matt had 14 transfer students. And Rob, I think they went to the grade 8 that year. You have to be a mastermind at putting a new team together every year. You just can't count on thing. And then Matt, you've seen this too. The junior colleges are really taking a hard hit on this thing because people are just moving from one program to another. So even Robbie Avila from Indiana State, their great power forward center, whatever, is hit the portal. So he's out there with looking for a $1 million NIL deal somewhere. So it has gotten insane.
Bo, and I'll say this to Matt. You're a coach. Do you have that conversation with these student athletes and say, look, I'm here. I've worked my way here. You've gotten here. You're a freshman in college. How committed are you? And because to me, the coach is in charge. Your boss is in charge. What we're doing, Matt, is we're just throwing away the chain of command. That's why we got all this chaos. The NCAA they've already dug their own grave. Let's just push the dirt on top of them. What are we waiting on?
So I also have another theory of what's going on with some of these kids with using their last year COVID. We're almost through that phase, right? And in the college basketball, I'll give you a unique example. We've known this for years. There's only 2 rounds in the NBA draft. A lot of time, the NBA scouts prefer these 19-year-olds that really haven't done much in college, but we're drafting on potential, Bo. So I'm a 22-year-old. I've had a really solid career. Let's say I'm at an institution in a Power 5. I'm averaging 15 points a game, but I don't have the measurables, let's say, that they won in the NBA for my position. So I know I may have to go overseas to make my money if I want to stay playing ball. So what a lot of these kids have done in the last few years, and I don't blame them on this. All right, let's see if there's a blue blood out there that wants to pay me for a year that will help me financially, and however I use that money before I go in a career. Either it's overseas basketball, or maybe I know Rob Browne and he's going to hire me as an intern. I'm a finance major, but some of these kids are getting smarter, and actually some of the coaches are meeting with these kids and saying, look, I want you in my program. Our NIL money is X. If you think you've overperformed in 4 years here, go somewhere else and get your money, because I still want what's best for you. I believe that's happening in certain places. And Bo hit it with, I believe it's Robbie Avila. You mentioned Indiana State, Bo. Their NIL pool is not strong. So if he goes to a Power 5 and gets a couple $100,000 next year, I don't know that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, because Robbie is not going to be an NBA star. He'd be working in someone's accounting firm someday. Okay? So why not get a chunk of money right now if I'm that 50-year kid, if someone's willing to take me, because I've overperformed the last 4 years in a mid-major. So I think there's a different way of looking at this too, guys. I think we all get pissed off because we're trying to build our own team within our own alma mater base, But these kids are trying to build their future. And for some of these kids, if they know they're not going to be an NBA star, I commend them. Go get the cash, man. Bag of cash, brother.
And that's what's happening. Like Dylan Gabriel left Oklahoma, the quarterback, Bo. He's really maybe 5'10". I think he went to Oregon for a big NIL deal. Why not? He's not going to be an NFL quarterback in all likelihood. If he can make $1 million, somewhere between $1 and $2 million, why not go for it? Bo Carter, National Football Foundation, proud native son of Sheffield, Alabama.
We'll be over there next week for the famous Colbert County Hall of Fame. We need to get Matt in there too, Rob.
Right. Hey, that's a beautiful part of the state.
It really is. It really
it's
is.
Where Mark Sears is from.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Ozzie
Schultz.
Newsom, the whole gang. Heine Manouche, a lot of good guys. No,
Yep.
Rob, to your point, though, that makes total sense because, and Matt, you hit it on the head, too. Find some people that, and this is one of the things that Rob and Matt, you've seen this, Alabama, Auburn, when they recruit kids, they said, hey, we know a guy in the construction, but you want to be a constructioneer.
Correct.
Engineer. We know a guy in Birmingham or a guy in Mobile that will hire you right out of college or whatever. So, I mean, and that was one incentive. Now I guess they can have a summer job or make personal appearances. The one thing that people are juggling, Matt, you're probably a little with your son too. Y'all are on the inside with this. They're having some issues with the kids. Okay, we want our NIL sponsor wants you to go to autograph signing at Matt Dean Motors this afternoon. Well, I got football practice at 3:00. Well, talk to the coach or talk to your position coach and tell them you'll be there at 3:30 or so. So that's what they're kind of being pulled in different directions. If you got a social media presence like the women, like me and the women's student athletes, you've got a gold mine out there. So they're some of the highest. But Olivia Dunn at LSU, and some of the others are making millions.
Well, one thing about Olivia Dunn is we know she's all over social media and doing TV commercials. And how good a gymnast is she? I mean, how many tens has she had? I have no idea. It's kind of like these bon voyants, like George Plimpton, the life of the party, wearing your ascot. What are you actually doing? I see where, and people are saying, Rob, what about your belief in the free market? One of our viewers is telling me that. Hell yeah, I still believe in the free market. I absolutely do. But what we don't need, we do not need Congress involved. So put that off the table. But that's just my opinion. But we got to tell these, we're going to get rid of the 24 and 25-year-olds that are hanging around because of the China virus lockdowns. Okay, it's like these perpetual. They can't graduate. It's eternal students. So Matt, when I look at where we are, like my 25-year-old son told me last week. He said, Dad, in 2006, if you would have invested $750 into Chipotle, today it'd be worth a little over $100,000. So what I'm saying is my kids all invest in the market. I mean, they've grown up with a father who's a financial advisor. I'll volunteer my services right now to go down to any school and talk about financial literacy. And you know what? You don't need a big, expensive car. The most of the wealthy people I know drive old cars. The biggest client account I've ever had was a couple from Des Moines, Iowa. And they used to come ride up to my office on their tandem bicycle. This flash and spending $300,000 on a car, you're an idiot. And it's just nobody has the balls to stand up to this stuff, Matt. If I'm a coach, I say, look, man, y'all don't be flashing all that crap around me. Put that money, get Milburn Drysdale involved from the Beverly Hillbillies. I mean, that's why Uncle Jed had so much money. So anyway, enough of that. I got to ask you that, Matt. After the game that we had Monday night, Dan Hurley made the comment, UConn is driving college basketball and running college basketball. How can you argue with him?
Right now, you can't, because essentially no one was even close for 2 straight years in a row in the NCAA tournament in the Final Four. You can make a case that, I thought Alabama actually played a little better than Purdue did. If you look at some of the runs that they were able to make with their ability to shoot the three and stretch their defense. But, it's funny. Danny Hurley had a clip a few years ago, guys, where he was in a press conference. I think they just got eliminated. They may have been like in the quarterfinal or semifinal loss. He says, "Hey, I just want to let you all know it's coming. It's going to happen. We know it's coming." So I think he's a mastermind at getting the personnel that fits his system to run. If you look at some of their personnel, it's not like they got a 25-point-a-game score. They got a collection of guys. And they actually, Bo, they ran the same game plan that Tennessee and Rick Barnes did, except they executed a little bit better. I mean, they shut down everybody else. They let Edey get his. They shut down everyone else. Now, one of the things that hurt Tennessee is they allowed, on the high ball screen and roll, Braden Smith to get downhill for Purdue. I'm talking about when Tennessee played Purdue, okay? Tennessee, I think, led in the first half of that game 11, and Purdue got back and then took over the game and won the game. But that game was a 63-60 game, and so Purdue made a late 3 in the last 2 minutes to stretch it to 2-possession game. So my point is, you don't see many open threes on Monday night. UConn is tenacious. They contest every shot, they rebound the misses, and they push the ball in transition and get easy offense. It's a pretty simple formula, but it's a buy-in, guys, because you don't have a superstar. I mean, Klingon will be in the pros someday, but it's not like he's going to be, what I call a megastar. But I think he'll be a serviceable NBA post player.
Yeah.
But they have a collection of guys that drink the Kool-Aid, and they probably know in UConn and their alumni base are taken care of in their NIL as well. So it's a great place to play basketball. Hey, I'll give you a stat. I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan, right? In 1999, Dr. Tom Davis, last year at the Hawkeyes, I believe, we lost to UConn in the Sweet 16, 78-68, okay? In the last 25 years after that game, Iowa has not been back to a Sweet 16, and UConn has won all 6 of their national championships.
Nice.
This is a 25-year run of dominance. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Not just right now, Rob, but you look at Jim Calhoun, even Kevin Ollie won a national championship there as a player and a coach. And now you've got 6 national championships in 25 years. Bo, you're the historian. I think in the last quarter of a century, there's been no one that has that level of success. And I think there's 6-0 in title games, I think.
I'll throw the stats at you. Kevin Skarbinski, the Birmingham lead, Scarbo knows, gave them to us. Since UConn won that championship in 99, they won 6. Duke has won 3.
Yeah.
North Carolina's won 3. Kansas has won 2. And Kentucky has won 1. Now, a considered non-traditional blue blood, Florida won back-to-back in 06-07. But, I like those Hurleys. You got to love those Irish Catholics, man. St. Anthony's. The father has won 26 state championships. And he's playing in a legitimately competitive league up there, Bo Carter. Yeah. All right, Bo, you think about where we are in football, spring football. Vince Ferrara is going to be on here with us in a minute. A lot going on. Matt referenced it a minute ago. We don't have the Pac-12 anymore. It's gone. What's left of it, it's just gone. You got Big 12, Big 10, ACC, SEC. Which conference do you think will be the next one to collapse? Or are we done with the collapsing and we've got the 4 we've been talking about?
I think it's going to stay, but in a perfect world, they'd love to have 4 with 16 teams in them, and you've got a perfect 16 team play. You can take 4 out of each. Although Matt's seen this too, the SEC and the Big Ten want to guarantee 3
Yep.
three automatic spots in the expanded college football playoff, which is run by our friend President Mark Keenum, former Corinth High Corinth High School Warriors football player in Mississippi. But it's going to really be interesting to see. Matt hit it on the head too. I think they're going to be more geographical divisions in this new super conference or whatever. So it will bring things back on a more regional basis or whatever. You won't have to. Although ESPN will dictate some intersectional games that they want for ratings, I guess. So it's all being driven by TV and money, as we know.
Well, the TV and the money part of it. The fans buying the tickets, Matt, that's the next battle we've got to fight. There are a lot of fans out there who spend a lot of money. And I promise you, from my level, you can't keep going to a handful of boosters and asking them to pay for everything. Matt, you've got the only NILs collectives that work are the big mass populist movements. You might have 600 people giving $10,000 a year. They would look at that as those are the dues, the association dues on their condo at the beach. But if we go to paying student athletes all the same, then what that invites is just people under the table paying them more. We've seen what some schools will do. Matt, usually it takes 4 or 5 years when something new is launched to work it out. Microsoft Windows. I think that's what's going to happen with this. And I really believe this. A lot of this stuff is going to be thrown in the garbage. That's what I think is going to happen.
Well, I'll take a guess at it. If we're going to do this the way you described, Rob, and I don't know how it's going to shake out, but there's going to have to eventually be a salary cap involved too. So that's what happens. And essentially you're making amateur sports, pro sports, and every pro sports, for the most part, there's some kind of cap involved when it comes to spending. So, I just think, guys, that it's still, the people are still going to fill the stadiums. The tailgates are going to be just as good. And what has happened, Rob, when you talk about NIL money, okay, I'm giving you $5 million this year. It may not be towards a facility enhancement and maybe towards a combination of facilities / NIL money. So, that's been going on, guys, for the last 2 or 3 years. You guys know that. So, yeah. The money's still going to be spent. It's just going to be spent differently. Now, you can also make the case that how do we improve our facilities long-term from a deferred maintenance standpoint if we don't have the institutional sport and some of our top boosters are given more to NIL instead of facilities? Yeah. So that's a legitimate question, too.
Yeah, and Vince Ferrara is on with us from the Sports Animal in Knoxville. And Vince, just when everybody starts completing these massive upwards of $100 million football-only facilities where they do everything but brush the student athletes' teeth for them and clothe them. Now, at the end of the day, you could build the new facility in Knoxville, and before the recruit and his entourage, which could be an RV full of his posse, how much you gonna give me? And so you could have okay facilities, couldn't you, if you're giving them a bunch of cash in their pocket?
Yeah, in theory you could, but I think so much of this depends on the level of recruit. The highest level recruits are going to be able to pick and choose what's most important to them more so than the lower level ones. And are you thinking about your basketball or football future above the NIL? And then it gets into your personal priorities also, but and then how you spend that money. Like we heard a lot about the Lady Vols basketball program and how some were saying that Kelly Harper wasn't able to get some of the top players they were in on because in the way they were doing the money in NIL with the collective for the Lady Vols supposedly was that they would give money to more of the transfers and existing players versus the high school players. So if you're a top high school player and the money, the NIL is most important to you, then maybe you go elsewhere. If the basketball part of it is more important, then maybe you go to where the basketball can develop you for the next level. But the lower level recruits, those are the ones that have to look at it in different ways. Do they just jump on the money while they can get it? Or are they going to make more of a future decision because the NIL isn't massive in any of those opportunities for any of them? So it really varies on the prospect and the schools, how they look at it.
Yeah. Bo Carter, you heard what Vince just said. There's maybe 33 5-stars a year in high school football out of 3,300 plus kids that sign. Of course, I think we're going to have to adjust those numbers now because not as many high school players are being signed because portal guys are just moving around from school to school. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, a great point on the your high school kids, and same brought up a point too about junior college players too. They're sort of left out there. They're going to go after an experience. Robbie Avila at Indiana State over 18-year-old. What interesting deal the last couple of weeks, Matt's probably seen this too. The G League, sort of a rookie league team that they have is dissolving because the NIL more or less put them out of business. I think their minimum salary, and they were supposed to get sort of life lessons and etiquette possibilities or whatever. But 100
teaching that.
I know. Rob, you and I and Matt and Vince need to go back to that probably.
Yes.
But anyway, but that was $175,000 minimum guarantee, and now most the 5-stars are getting twice that or even 3 times that amount. So it's just I totally agree with Matt. I think they're going to have some sort of a salary cap or a player pool fund or something that'll bring a little bit of sanity to it somehow.
Yeah. Vince, spring practice is underway up in Knoxville. Lamaliva played in the Iowa game, looked really good. He's a true freshman, 6'5", 205 pounds. Let's talk about him, the quarterback competition at Tennessee, and what you've seen that makes you think that 2024 is going to be the year of the Volunteers.
I really like this football team, guys. Nico, to me, has all that it takes. He's got the talent, the arm strength, came in with the recruiting hype, but make no mistake, even if he was kind of known as the NIL quarterback or player from a couple of years ago, this kid is about ball. The practice is different, especially at the quarterback position with him there. He's about business. He talks to his players, his receivers, tight ends, backs. After so many reps, he's communicating with them. Miles Kitzelman, was a reserve tight end at Alabama. He's one of the 2 transfer tight ends in that room. He told the story when I asked him about Nico. He said, well, I knew of him. I didn't know what he was going to be like. And he pulled me aside and said, hey, anything you need, you let me know. I'm excited that you're here. Can't wait to work with you. Let's throw, that kind of stuff. So he doesn't carry himself like a 5-star that just is anointed everything in college football on this team. But make no mistake, there is no quarterback competition at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Maybe for the fans there was last year, but number 8, Nico Iamaleava, is the guy. He acts like the guy in terms of, just being the dude without being the hype guy. He's about business. He's so accurate, and you won't even see the best Nico until the games, because with his skill set, it's about the playmaking and ability to throw on the run. With his legs. Those were things that they really did not do as much as they should have last year. He'll put his best foot forward, no pun intended, once they get into games this year. But he's been really impressive.
Say his name one more time, because I have Matt and Bo and I. It's Nico Iamaleava.
Nope. Iamaleava.
Iamaleava. Iamaleava. Okay.
Yep.
And he's from California. He said,
Yes.
I mean, what's his weight up to now?
About 215. He put on 15 pounds last year.
Wow.
He might be a little bit bigger than that. You could tell he is filled out more. He's more muscular than he was last year. He came in super rail thin, but he is more filled out. It is noticeable with him. You know, he'll continue to add that weight with that big, long frame. He's got the ability to do that. But man, accuracy, the arm strength, and then just everybody raves about him. It's a very different approach than it was Joe Milton, and that I think this offense will run a lot crisper and have more big plays with Nico. And everybody wanted Nico last year, but I think they'll be better with Nico in his second year because now he's fully ready, more of an understanding of the offense, and be more mature. He learned under Joe Milton, saw some of those mistakes. It's not like the Nico you see this year would have been the Nico they would have had last year had they played him. It's just the perfect segue to him this year.
Matt Dean, the quarterback we're talking about, is named?
Is Nico.
Say it again.
Mama called him Nico. Daddy called him Nico. I called him Nico. Right?
Hey, but I like what Vince just said about him. Now, a lot of coaches, and they have to. It's just surviving in what we're dealing with. They're not putting out a depth chart. But you saw him in the Iowa game last year.
Yeah.
But he's 6'6", can do it all. And if he's dedicated to making everybody around him better, isn't that the ultimate teammate?
Listen, Iowa had a top 5 national defense last year. I know they didn't have a lot of tape, Vince, on him because he didn't play a ton last year, but he made them, with his ability to run and throw the ball. Iowa was one of their worst defensive games of the year in that bowl game. Now, you saw how bad Iowa's offense was, and I saw one of our listeners made a comment about Iowa importing some skill players in offense. Good luck with that. But I think, in a way, Vince, he reminds me of a young Jaden Daniels. We'll see if that continues to evolve, because you look at the frame, I think he's a little taller than Jaden. He throws a real nice ball. He's explosive. When he gets into space, man, good luck. Like Jaden Daniels, you just got to avoid those big hits, and I think they'll be able to protect him in the pocket some too. So.
Yeah, and Bo, you look at college football, and Vince, Matt, we all do. These quarterbacks are coming in now as true freshmen. Mm-hmm. They're so different from what we saw even 5 years ago. I mean, maybe it's because the money they're getting, Vince. I mean, are you noticing that? I mean, I don't know if they ever talk. It's really weird. Nobody I'm around talks about how much money they make. I mean, and again, the wealthiest people I know drive old cars, and even they almost don't want people to know, because then everybody's pulling on them, Vince. Why wouldn't these 18-year-olds kind of follow that advice? So I'm telling you, Vince, you really would be a great agent, because you've seen so much. I mean, you could talk to these guys, but it's the 20 or 30 people that are just wearing them out, isn't it? That's what you got to keep away from them. That's what I would think.
Yeah, you have to be aware of who runs in those circles around those guys, where their influence is. Those are some of the things that you probably learn a little bit in the recruiting process, right? Right. What's a package deal with this guy besides the parents? Who else is there at the with him at the visit, and who are the influences? Does he have a quarterback coach that wants to be involved, or his former high school coach that can't let go and let him kind of spread his wings? So those are all the things that it is on the school to learn and understand what comes with those players, because guess what? Those could potentially be headaches if it's the wrong people, the wrong influencers that want to have a say in things. But that's more the case in basketball than football, but it's probably the case in football to some degree for some guys. But I mean, Nico comes across as so mature. He talks about everybody else before him and deflects. He so many interviews before he ever made it to Tennessee and Rocky Top.
Yeah.
It gives him an advantage in being able to handle the scrutiny and the expectations that he's going to have at Tennessee.
Yeah, that's a great take, Vince. Bo, I remember there were some guys that they would be like, just don't ever put a microphone in front of them. They can't speak or whatever. In most of this stuff, sports information directors, you are basically corralling all the media. I still use the term SID because that's what they are. And I remember Bo Jackson, how much he stuttered when he got to Auburn. And, I'm a speech comm major in college, mass comm, minor in business and history. Man, 95% of stuttering is psychological. And if you can do anything, if you can get a young man or woman to be comfortable being interviewed, isn't that a big deal? Because, man, everybody is watching what they do. And whatever they get in NIL, they'll probably blow through most of that, if not all of it. But the real NIL comes after they leave, and then someone like you has followed their career and can network them in with unbelievable job opportunities.
Yeah,
correct.
That's a perfect point, Rob. And again, that was the recruiting sort of pitch when I remember speaking of that too. Well, two things. Neil Jeffrey, remember the great Baylor quarterback, who led Baylor to the Southwest Conference Championship in '74, had a major stuttering problem, and he couldn't call plays. Sometimes he would be stuttering so bad, one of the other guys would see plays send him from the sideline. But his speech therapist and future wife got him down, and he's been a Baptist minister for about 40 years, which is really amazing. One of the most sought after speakers in the circuit around the Dallas area. But that, and then as an old sports information director, is the antiquated term. Vince probably remembers this. Bud Ford and Haywood Harris at Tennessee would have to call. You'd have a meeting right after the coaches got through doing orientation. You go in, you talk to them about don't take any phone calls from gamblers. Here's what we'll set up your interviews for you, et cetera. And the other thing was they'd have an FBI come in right behind the PR people and say, hey, here are the evils of gambling. Here's what happened in Kentucky in 1952 and CC. Now sports gambling is legal in 37 states. So what do you do? Just don't bet more than you have in your bank account, I guess, or something. So it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry, Bud is a beauty, and he's still I think he had sort of a light historian role at the University of Tennessee, which fits in perfectly. And let me say this real quick on Tennessee. You mentioned, Rob, the freshman thing. That is no longer a thing, especially at Tennessee. Tennessee does avails where they're bringing out freshmen. Like, we get a chance to talk to almost all of them, unless they don't have projected to have a big role or something. But we talk to almost all the top practice, plus some of the veterans. Tennessee makes 3, 4, 5 different players available, and they're cycling through all the assistant coaching. So with NIL opportunities that are out there, in today's pro athlete college experience, those days are.
Well, Vince is breaking up a little bit, but Matt, I'm going to throw something out to everybody here. I'm going to make a prediction. And Vince, we lost you there for a minute, but I'll make a prediction. In the next 2 or 3 years, I will not be surprised if a bunch more access is given to coaches, players, and practice for the public. Because while all we hear about is what the players want, we're not hearing about what the fans want. Wait until we have collective bargaining on the part of the fans and the boosters. And they go in there and they say, hold on a second. This is a state university. Most of these are state universities. Sunshine laws. open air. They're going to start, you're going to start seeing, there's going to be a breaking point because we all read these comments. But every time I talk to groups of people, they're like going, this is BS. I'm not funding this. I am a successful business owner. I have 4 companies that I run. And they'll say, I would never run a business like this unless I wanted to run it into the ground. So I think there's going to be some victories for the fans. And if I'm an athletic director, I invite the fans to everything I can. And I know some of them can be a pain in the ass.
Well, what was interesting last night, guys, and I don't know if you saw this, Vince, I watched a little bit of the Arkansas presser for Coach Calipari coming to Arkansas. And probably the guy that got the biggest ovation was, I think his name is John Tyson.
John Tyson, yes.
I mean, the whole Bud Walton Arena is like giving him a standing ovation. It was more than they actually welcomed Calipari, it seemed like. I know they were excited about him getting there, but I think fans are very appreciative of the few behind the scenes that can help their institutions maintain some sanity in these really tough economic times. And I know that sounds crazy, but like back in the old days, Bo, it was like, McDonald's bag full of cash by a bag man. Now it's pretty open. And we're going to introduce Tyson, who just helped increase our NIL pool and helped with John Calipari's contract. And that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is.
And Rob's familiar with John Tyson. Actually, he is also the Tyson Foods is the corporate sponsor for the Black College Baseball World Series for small colleges in Montgomery that'll be played next month.
I did not know that. That's good.
They've been so generous and they gave out 80,000 pounds of food to underserved families in Montgomery last year. Wonderful people that really have a great feel for the community service, et cetera. And John Tyson, I think, was a classmate or year ahead of our friend Charlie Fiss, who's the longtime PR director for the Cotton Bowl. So those guys go back to they're Springdale. I told Charlie, I said, I thought you might become better friends with him at Springdale High School.
Well, listen, you talk about donors. I was with all those Arkansas folks at that lunch meeting yesterday. It was fantastic. Alice Walton, one of the Waltons, was concerned about, I think, $2 billion a year leaving the state of Arkansas of health care because it couldn't be, taken care of within the state. Well, what is Alice Walton doing? She's doubling the size of the hospital up there in Northwest Arkansas to make things better for Arkansas people. Vince Ferrara, think about this every time you're at a Pilot gas station eating a death dog with extra onions and mustard. You are helping fund Tennessee. And Bud Ford, Haywood Harris, Bob Kessling. In my opinion, the Vol Network, I remember I used to, as a kid, and I know I'm nuts, but I would write to sports information directors all over the SEC in the South for their media guides. Nobody sent more stuff than Clemson. I mean, my God, you'd have to have a spotter to take it out of the mailbox with you. But so did Tennessee. They had 151 stations on the Vol Network at one time. A lot of that was AM, FM, in the same city, but they were everywhere. But what I always remember about Tennessee, and my good friend, John David Badur, he's listening right now from Covington. I mean, Tennessee fans, they all would have their headsets on at the games. I mean, it's like, and I always tell people, if you've been to the Smithsonian, or if you've been to the Metropolitan Museum up in New York, if you don't get it used to be Walter Cronkite going, "Welcome to the museum. You'll see a fine tour here today of many exhibits from all over the world." You got to have the radio. Vince, don't ever stop doing what you do, because if you go to a game in a 100,000 seat stadium without earphones on, you have no idea what's going on. That's why it's so important to have these radio shows. But the Vol Network was the biggest of any college in America, if I'm not mistaken. And I see Matt shaking his head because deep down inside, what did he do? Talk about that, because that's big.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's still so much pride. I don't know where it stands in terms of number of affiliates around the country because Learfield has grown so much. They've added to their family, and so there's others that have grown also. But tons of pride in it, and obviously it starts with John Ward. Uh, People still hold in such high regard, and yeah, there's a lot of great talent, and when the football team is good, everything else kind of falls into place after that. There's a lot of sports that are going at a high level right now. We air on our thing. We air football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, and softball. I don't know how many can air that many different sports. Station, we're the flagship, so we give them a lot of exposure. And myself and my partner on my show, Tom Wilkerson, we talk baseball together. We host the morning show together. So there's a lot of opportunities for the brand to be out there, and just a lot of pride in being a part of the network.
Yeah, it's huge. Matt Dean, I know you've got to check out, but closing comments.
Well, probably a little bit off the tangent here, Vince, but I just want to let you know I pulled for Kim Caldwell, but I was a friend of Kelly Harper's. My former assistant, Jennifer Sullivan, worked for Kelly 2 years at UT. She's now the FAU head coach, and I wish Kelly the best. I wish UT Lady Vol basketball the best. I just know, it's one of the most difficult jobs in America because of what Pat did for us in women's basketball. So pulling for Kim Caldwell, but hoping Kelly Harper will find her next gig here the next year. So
yeah. Hey, Matt, love having you on here. Always great commentary because you are, as Kevin Straubinski calls you, you're a hoop head. But Vince, you had something to say.
No, I was just saying, I was just backing up Matt. That those are nice comments, and Kelly was super, super nice. And yeah, it's a different level of scrutiny with the shadow of Pat Summitt when you play for him.
Yes.
Two coaches have. So Kim Caldwell did a great job in her press conference saying, "Hey, I don't need to study up on Pat Summitt's legacy what she did."
Yeah. Well, I mean, we tell you one thing. A lot of Styrms here in the South today, losing people left and right. Hey, we're getting shrinking. Soon it will just be me. But Bo Carter, you're talking about these legacies that you've got to try to. And Vince, keep going. You were rolling. I know Matt had to get to a meeting, but keep going.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just saying that the new lady said, "I'm not Pat Summitt. No one ever will be. But I just want to strive to be someone that she would be proud of." So that's the best way you can handle that. Got to get results. Transfer portal gives you at least an opportunity to redo your roster. Going to have a completely different style of play than before because they're going to be shoot a bunch of threes, get up and down the floor, try to force turnovers, and that's the reason why Danny White chose her with only 1 year of T1 experience as a head coach after excelling on D2. It's an interesting hire with a lot of big opinions on it. We'll see how it plays out with that Storage program. Will be the fourth coach ever of that Lady Vols program.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is, Bo, I know you've got to get going too. It's a wild day here today, but trying to replace a coach, you'll never replace a Pat Summitt with 8 national championships. 2 coaches have tried, and now here we go again. But bottom line is the interest. What we're seeing now, women's and men's basketball. I've been saying this for a while. I'm not the only one that says it, but the women's game is a more pure form of the game. It's played below the rim. It's a lot more strategies, X's and O's. But you look at these TV numbers, and you love to digest those TV numbers. When Iowa and LSU played, it outdrew 3 of last year's NBA Finals. The message is, keep your politics and all that crap off the court. I don't care what you think. Just shut up and dribble. Kind of focus on the game. That's what people want. That Thompson Bowling Arena, women's basketball at Tennessee and at UConn and now at Iowa and LSU and for God's sake, South Carolina. Holy cow. They lose all their starters from last year with 1 loss and come back with 5 new starters and win them all. These are the halcyon days of women's basketball, aren't they?
It really is, and you've got the Caitlin Clark, you got the star power, Paige Beckers, this Hannah Hidalgo at Notre Dame is going to be the next, and Juju Watkins at Southern Cal. The schools have done. Vince knows this too. The schools have done a great job promoting them, who are 25, 30 point a game scorers at least, and I think the legacy is going to continue. ESPN's really, ESPN's pretty much into self promotion, but they've done a great job, and really keying in on the games. And I think that's where the ratings came from. They used the superstar concept, and fans, Rob, you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot better. To me, it seems like a lot better passing and more unselfish play in women's basketball. Even though you've got big scores than the men's sport a lot of times. So it's fun to watch. The fans get into it, and it's not a cult deal, but it's just something that's entertaining, and you give it the old college, the college loyalties kick in there too.
Yeah, it is. Well, Bo, look, we'll be doing this again next week. Great stuff as always. Gave us some new names, the up and coming. Who is the next Caitlin Clark? When you start talking like that, that tells you there's a lot of interest. But Bo Carter, be good out there in the Metro Flex.
Vince, good. Thank you guys so much. Enjoyed it.
All right, thank you. Thanks. Vince, been a wild one today, but I like what you said about Nico. That's really good because, again, when Sunday night when all the chatter was out there about John Calipari going from Kentucky to Arkansas, Mitch Davis, one of our young reporters, members of the Sidelines team, was saying, is this, Wes Moore guy legit? I said, yeah, he's on our show most Mondays. And we had Wes on the show Monday talking about that. And Kevin Skarbinski said, hats off to you. This is a big win for a local reporters. West is the ESPN 103.7 The Buzz Daily Show in Little Rock. Also, sports director, Fox Sports Channel 16 in the capital city. And he broke that story. And he had to check and recheck and check and recheck. You know what I'm talking about. Trust but verify. Broke that story. And he came on our show Monday before he did his own show. But that's big. That's what SEC Sidelines Sports Network and SECU is all about. We have the best executive producer I've ever seen in Brendan Martin, Buddy's son, and I get to be on their show, and we're building this network. That's why you're part of this, and we want your show to where when people fly 40,000 feet over, from New York to L.A., you got to be able to drill down local. I mean, I'm not saying the guys at ESPN don't know what they're doing, but there's no way in the world they know as much about Tennessee as you do. And then I love that Bud Ford, Haywood Harris, all those guys, Claude Felton at Georgia, Norm Carlson was great at Florida, Langston Rogers at Ole Miss, Bob Hartley, of course, Bo Carter was at Mississippi State forever, Schaefer at Arkansas. Does anybody know more than those guys? See, that's where I'm going. The more you drill down, the deeper you drill down, you get better stories, don't you?
You do, and with those debate shows, it usually kind of highlights when they start talking about your local team. It really highlights how they don't know. Reading a headline or Googling real quick, it's just not the same. Now, it's also impressive when you have national broadcasters. Like during the NCAA tournament, I was there in Detroit, right there courtside. Talk about the Vol Network. I was right courtside sitting next to Bob and Bird on headsets with them. I did halftime stats, and so that was an unbelievable experience. But then I'd go back, you sit there in hand, but then you go back and watch the TV broadcast to see what those guys said, if there's some different perspectives that you might have missed. And when those guys like Steve Lapis or anyone else, Jim Jackson, when they can give you details about the team that, maybe others that didn't do their homework wouldn't get, that's a validation that they put in their homework. So we're all able to identify who does the work and who just shows up because of their name and where they played and who they coach. So it does show a lot. But local is where you find out the details. Like, I'm headed, as soon as I take my dog to the vet, I'm headed to views at UT, running back coach, the special teams coordinator, 3 players. So I'll have details and know what's going on with those guys, whereas someone from the outside, you won't have those details yet. So it's fun to be in the weeds like that, you know?
Yeah, it is. You're right, man. Hey, look, great show today, everybody. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow all of our sponsors at sidelines.live, Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, House Industries, Gateway Tire and Service Center, The Vitamin Shop, Oxford and Olive Branch, Mississippi, and Rumble Boxing in Midtown Memphis. Look, Vince, let people know how they can follow you. And again, love having you on. You're another one of those Swiss Army knives. You can talk Vols, but you can talk the big picture. But when you drill down local, folks, put that app on your phone. Vince, tell them how.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, I love the draft too, because you combine football, NFL, those two worlds. So anything with the draft coming up in terms of Tennessee players of the SEC, we're glad to hit that up in the future. And then we got the orange and white game. 8 SEC teams with spring games on Saturday. A lot of them at the same time, which is a little unusual.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about Tennessee in the weeks to come. But always fun to be on with you on socials, Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Vint Sports, VINT Sports, and then give me a subscribe on YouTube for YouTube channel. And then our station podcast at 991thesportsanimal.com in the podcast section for our morning show, lots of videos and a ton of other content.
Yeah, I have now renamed Twitter and X. I call it Twix. That's the new name. Kind of Roy D. Mercer. Listen, how long you going to be out there? I'll be out there all day. Well, I'll be out there twixt 1 and 2. So you better be, I'll be looking for you. Great stuff. Hey, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world, people. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out, help people out, do great things for people, kind words and kind deeds. But more important than anything else, great follow through. Vince, good luck with those dogs today at a UT veterinarian's office. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. We are out of here.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.